Hi, everybody. I'm Caitlin, one of the youth librarians at Skokie Public Library, and I'm here tonight with Melissa and Shelley, two of the best librarians in the business. Tonight, we are really excited, dare I say, proud, to share a list of truly excellent books that celebrate pride. For those of you who aren't sure what LGBTQIA plus Pride Month is all about, the month of June honors the 1969 Stonewall Uprising in Manhattan, during which supporters of the Stonewall Inn in New York staged an uprising to resist the abuse, persecution, and police harassment that LGBT Americans commonly experienced. This uprising was a tipping point for the gay liberation movement in the United States, and while we celebrate, we also acknowledge that the struggle continues to this day. Tonight, we bring you library materials that celebrate, illuminate, and educate. Items that will spark joy, that will make you laugh and maybe cry, but are sure to delight. Before we get started, let's talk a little about why it's important to read these books. Why is it important to have a list for kids that celebrate pride?
It is so important for us to see ourselves in and have access to materials that represent us. I love the idea of curating this list of great reads that narrows down books for an audience. And while it's certainly not exhaustive by any means, it's a great place to start.
Right. And I also, as I was looking over the list, it feels like we have a lot of different kinds of voices here. We have families with two moms or two dads. We have kids who are investigating their own sexuality and their own gender. So, and we have books for kids of all ages. So,
And I get to start us off because I have books for our youngest readers. I wanted to start with the most visible symbol of pride, the rainbow. Melissa, you have an amazing background. Can you talk a little bit about why that is important?
Rainbows. Did you know that the rainbow flag was first designed in 1978 by an openly gay artist named Gilbert Baker? He said, "Our job as gay people was to come out, to be visible, to live in the truth, and as I say, to get out of the lie." A flag really fit that mission because that's a way of proclaiming your visibility or saying, "This is who I am." Interestingly, it wasn't officially adopted as a symbol of the LGBTQ movement until 1994. So almost 20 years.
and if you want to learn more about this, we have some really great books, as well as books about the history of pride, the Stonewall movement, all in the nonfiction section of the kids department. Plus, there's some great biographies of gay and trans people who have been influential in so many fields. And right now we have a wonderful display right as you walk in the department of books that are just all about this topic.
We also have some really great science books about rainbows. They're very interesting. And on that point, one of my favorite questions to ask our young patrons is, what's your favorite color? My favorite answer is rainbow, and my even favoriter answer is rainbow with sparkles. I also love rainbow. It is also my favorite color, and the book that I have celebrates all the colors as it asks my favorite question, what's your favorite color? So the book that I'm going to show you is My Favorite Color, and it is written by Becker. It begins with one color, yellow, which is an excellent color, but it quickly devolves into indecision as other colors pop into view. I love this book because it allows for a lot of color introspection, but also because each one of these squares, you can see there are little squares on every page. Each one of those squares is a thick semi-transparent vellum. So when you turn the page or if you hold it up to the light, you can see how the colors change and interact with each other. It's so much fun for all ages. I love this book, and it also makes an excellent gift. This book is not just rainbows, it's rainbows with sparkles.
It looks very cool.
It's very cool.
Mhm.
The next book that I have is called Being You, and it is a first conversation about gender written by Madison. This book is so good. It is basically a gentle immersion into some really deep concepts for our youngest readers. It is affirming and it's adorable, and it asks some really great questions like, what are some things that you love about your body? I'm actually going to put that question onto you two because as I was reading this book with my daughter, I spent a lot of time thinking about the things that I don't love about my body. And I rarely spend time thinking about the things that make me great. So I will go first. I love my eyes. Even though I don't have perfect vision, I have a lot of glasses though, I love my eyes a whole lot. They are light green, and what's cool about them is that they change color. Shelley, what do you love about your body?
That is very cool. Color changing eyes. I love my hands because they're so useful. I have really long fingers. I'm wearing nail polish right now, which is also fun. And they type really fast. I once, when I was in high school, was clocked at 117 words per minute.
Oh, great.
And they were super helpful when I was learning to play piano because I could actually do spread for 10 keys, which is a lot. So yeah, my hands are great.
That's amazing.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that. Well, I love that my body keeps going. Even if I'm tired or I'm not feeling well, my body still gets me to where I need to be, and it helps me get things done.
That's awesome. That is extremely awesome. So back to being you, like the things that you love about your body, there is a lot to love about this book. But what I really like are the opportunities for conversation that it invites. My daughter, as we were reading it, had some great questions that we were able to talk through. And in the end, I feel like the message that it leaves us with that, here's the last page, each one of us is just right, exactly how we are, is one that we can all stand to hear. And that's actually a really great segue into my next title, which is From the Stars in the Sky to the Fish in the Sea. It's written by Cheng Thom, who's an author who identifies as a non-binary trans woman and also a lasagna warrior, which I find intriguing. From the Stars in the Sky to the Fish in the Sea is an incredibly beautiful picture book about a baby, Mulan, who is born when the sun and the moon are in the sky at the same time, so the baby couldn't decide who it wants to be. As a result, they became a little of everything. No matter what, their mother loves them exactly as they are, and Mulan is happy. That is until they start school and no one understands them and nothing makes sense. This book is a beautiful, empathetic journey that emphasizes and re-emphasizes love, support, and acceptance. It broke my heart and then it built it up again like 3 separate times. It's a perfect read aloud for preschool and early elementary aged kids. I really like read alouds. I spend a lot of time reading to my kids, and obviously I'm a kids librarian, so I do a lot of story times. So it's really important to me that a book is fun to read out loud, both for me and for the people that I'm reading it with. And this next book that I have is a really good example of that. This is Mr. Watson's Chickens, and it's written by Jarrett Dapier, and it's illustrated by Angela Surumi. I love this book. Mr. Dapier, in addition to being a chicken raiser in his own right, is also a former colleague, and he's a local celebrity. Yes, I 100% geek out over any kids author the way that some people might geek out over movie stars or musicians. Like, oh my gosh, it's Kevin Henkes. So in this book, Mr. Watson and Mr. Nelson love each other, and they love the chickens that they raise, until a completely manageable 3 chickens becomes a wholly unruly 456. Here's a picture of all the chickens in their house. It's bonkers. There are chickens in the sink, chickens on the bed, chickens in the bread box, chickens on their heads. The situation is untenable. This book is funny and it's sweet, and you probably think that I chose it because it prominently features a same-sex couple, and yes, that is true, but even more than that, I picked it for their larger-than-life chicken, Aunt Agnes, who lives her best chicken life to its fullest and is 100% exactly who she is at the top of her lungs all the time. She is an excellent role model for all of us. And finally, I want to do something a little unorthodox. I want to talk about a show. I know it's book chat, but we all know that the library has a lot more than books to offer. And also, there are, in my defense, a number of great graphic novels that are born from this show. And we have them here in the library. So if you don't want to watch the show, you can read the graphic novels. But this is Steven Universe, which is, it's absolutely wonderful. It's also really, really hard to describe. So we've got Steven, who is a boy who is half human and half mineral-based alien. Look, just stay with me. He is being raised by his single father and 3 beloved humanoid gems. It's part superhero, it's part sci-fi, it's part family drama, it's part coming of age, and it is all heart. The overarching themes in this TV series, which is also a movie, and it's also those graphic novels that I talked about, the overarching themes involved healthy relationships, trust, mental health, acceptance, and love, and perhaps most of all, kindness, like radical kindness. The creator is Rebecca Sugar. You can see her pictured on the screen beneath the picture of Steven Universe going woohoo. She herself is a queer woman. She has created a fantastic show that appeals to all ages, including us olds, with very important lessons about gender roles and fluidity and the ability to evolve. It also has great adventure and delightfully relatable characters, and perhaps most importantly, super catchy songs. I watched this show with my 10-year-old and my 6-year-old, and we loved every minute of it. I cannot recommend this one highly enough.
I love that. My three boys in their 20s and 30s love this show as well. So like you said, it's not just a kids show or a grown-up show. It seems like it works for all ages. And they have been bugging me to watch it. And now that I know you love it so much, Caitlin, I need to move it to the top of my list.
You absolutely do. You're going to love it. I can't wait to talk about it with you. We are going to sing so much, Shelley.
I love it. So yes, and speaking of evolving, like in Steven Universe, I have some books for kids that are getting a little bit older. So my first one is a graphic novel called Princess Ever After by Katie O'Neill. It all begins with a princess rescuing a princess. Princess Amira, the rescuer, proclaims that she has a sword, a unicorn, and kick butt hair. And you can tell from that cover that she kind of does. While Princess Sadie proves herself to be smart and brave and a great problem solver. There's so much humor and adventure and the fun art in here. Plus there's great side characters like Prince Butthead and an evil conniving sister princess. And this short graphic novel is so engaging. It turns a lot of fairy tale tropes upside down, and it has a satisfying, if maybe a little predictable ending. So I loved that one. And it's short enough so that kids can enjoy it at many ages. Okay, so my next one is Love, Penelope by Joanne Rocklin. And I love books that are written in letters or journals or texts. And this one is great. 10-year-old Penelope is enthusiastic about a lot of things, including the fact that one of her moms is going to have a baby. She has so many thoughts about the baby and lots of other things in her life. So she decides to write a journal to the new family member when they are born. This story touches on a lot of things, including racial justice, homophobia, and the illustrations by Lucy Knisley are warm and whimsical and match really nicely with the story. Penelope shares her hopes, dreams, and worries, and we are completely rooting for her and the love we know she'll find when her new baby arrives, sister or brother, or neither or both. This is not a brand new one, this next one, but I had to include it because I just love this family so much. The Misadventures of Family Fletcher by Dana Levy. This book follows one school year for this loving family of 2 dads and 4 adopted boys, ages 6 through 12, Having 3 boys, I am, the chaos that it ensues is completely believable. From first day jitters to graduation day, we watch them experience the joys and challenges, and you can just tell through all of it that they are a really loving family. They are not perfect. Oh my gosh, plenty of flaws. And the fact that there are 2 dads is really not the focus of the story. The author does a great job showing how normal this family really is. And I'm putting normal in quotes. The characters are realistic, not too perfect, and sometimes they get into messes of their own making, but you will get to know them and see some of their qualities in people you know as well as yourself. This family will make its way into your heart. It's one of my favorite realistic fiction books.
I love that one too. It has such a great sense of humor, and I feel like the way it's written is just incredibly engaging. And like you said, like it feels like you're hanging out with
Yeah,
just a cool family.
right. Like, wouldn't it be fun to have them as next door neighbors?
Yes.
Oh, speaking of which, they have a new next door neighbor in this book, and he is not the nicest man. So that's one of the challenges they're facing. Yeah, if we lived next to them, we would just have a lot of fun with them. It would just be awesome. So my next one is The Pants Project by Clarke. Liv, who has 2 moms, is starting middle school with a secret. He's a boy, but everyone assumes he's a girl. And if that wasn't worrisome enough, the dress code at his middle school says that girls have to wear skirts. This is his rumination on how he found out or realized that he was a boy. I realized there was something different about me when I was around 7 or 8 years old. I didn't just wake up one morning and think, I'm a boy. It sort of crept up to me, tapped me on the shoulder a few times before I started to pay attention. I began to think that the word girl didn't quite fit me. It was like a shoe that was too small. It pinched me. And when Liv decides to challenge the dress code at his new school, he leans on his supportive family and finds supportive friends to help him get the signatures he needs for the petition to change the dress code. I love this one. You'll really be rooting for Liv by the end. All right, so Star-Crossed by Barbara Dee. I love books that involve theater because I'm a theater geek, and this one is no exception. Romeo and Juliet is the play, and there's love in the air both on and off stage for this 8th grade production. Secret crushes, rivalries, and just plain old middle school drama accompany this coming-of-age story where 12-year-old Maddie wonders, what even is a crush? And is it possible to have a crush on both a boy and a girl at the same time? When the boy playing Romeo drops out of the production and Maddie steps in, things heat up even more. This is a great, fun, interesting read about, someone who's questioning their sexuality. So I love this one. All right, my last one is a nonfiction book, and it's called What You Don't Know by Anastasia Higginbotham. And I love this author. She's written books like Death is Stupid and Divorce is the Worst. And she's so good at seeing things from a kid's perspective and letting us all know, adults and kids alike, that our feelings are valid and real. Her mixed media artwork's great for these kind of topics. In this book, we follow a queer Black boy who deals with homophobia and racism in a variety of places, school, church, etc. He has family and friends who support him, and it's a real learning experience about how real support can look. It's a picture book, but it's not short. It's like over 100 pages, but it's great to share with a loving grown-up and just about any age kid, really. So this is a super good one.
It looks really good. I love the cover. I like how she well, you said it's mixed media. I love that.
Yeah.
I like that cut up art a whole lot. And I saw sequins for the little rollerblades.
Yeah, that's her style, very much very, very much throwing it all in there, but somehow it all like makes sense and works on the page. So a lot of fun.
I'm excited to check that one out. All of the titles are great.
I know.
Right? Some of them I know about, some of them I don't. So this is very cool. So I've got some great books for 5th to 8th graders, which, as we know, is a time filled with a lot of changes, so much joy, and lots of questions. First up is The Best Man by Richard Peck. And while the book begins with a wedding, and funny enough ends with a wedding, there is more to this story than just weddings. We meet Archer, who lives in Chicago and is obsessed with the Chicago Cubs. Archer is insightful, funny, and sometimes it takes him a minute to catch up, which I absolutely feel like. I feel like that sometimes. He narrates his life for us from 1st to 6th grade. So, life happens, right? That's a long time to cover. So for instance, like when he realizes that one of his favorite family members, the coolest of the cool, is gay. And then right after, Archer finds out that he has to change schools the next year. And you guessed it, changing schools was a huge deal for him. And I don't know about you, but if I had to find just one thing to be good at and to be the best at it, I don't even know what I would choose. I like to do a lot of different things, and I don't think I can choose just one. But in The Best at It by Maulik Pancholy, Raoul's grandfather, his favorite person, tells him to find just one thing he's good at and become the best at it. So, in the midst of starting 7th grade, which he's already pretty anxious about, he's being bullied for who he is, and he's trying to figure out why he can't stop looking at and thinking about Justin Emery, who sounds pretty dreamy, I have to say. He finds himself wondering if new things like sports and the arts are what will make him stand out and become the best. I found myself rooting for Raoul the whole time, and his best friend, Chelsea, was the best. And I love the cover of this book. There's so much going on, and it feels like 7th grade. So much going on.
So much going on. I have to ask, so Melissa, you kind of answered this question, but I have to ask you, Shelley, was there ever a time that you felt like you had to be the best at something? I love this book a whole lot, and I really related to it. And I can tell you that I had this moment in 6th grade, like Melissa said, it feels like everything is falling apart, and at the same time, everything is like building up at the same time. There's so much change happening. And I had this idea that I could do anything if I could just do it in like a tiny, like a mosaic square, like I could learn how to sing exactly like Tori Amos if I could just isolate like 3 seconds and get my voice to sound exactly like that 3 seconds. I tried really hard. It turns out it doesn't work that way. But I was really sure, and I spent a lot of time practicing. So Shelley, was there ever something like that where you felt like
Yeah, actually, when I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so this wasn't when I was a kid, but a little older, I decided I wanted to be an expert in something. And it turned out that what I wanted to be an expert in was children's literature. And so I think I picked the right career for that.
I think you did.
Melissa,
I'm sure I'm not the best, but at least I'm pretty good at it.
You're in it. Melissa, do you have anything? Was there ever a thing? It's okay if there isn't.
I think I have to say singing, because I was that nerdy kid. We were in the basement and I had like a recorder. I would pretend it was my microphone and make my friends listen to me sing. Or I would sing along to records or something. Luckily they put up with me and it all worked out. But yeah, I think something like that.
And if you have ever seen or heard Melissa sing at a story time, you have had a huge treat.
Thank you.
I have your voice in my head a lot, Melissa.
Thank you. So my next title, because I mentioned that in the previous book that Chelsea was the very, very best friend, because she was just so supportive and would talk to Raoul, just break things down for him. So I was wondering if you've ever found yourself questioning the person who is supposed to be your best friend. Maybe they did, or they said something that you completely disagreed with. I know that throughout my life, that's happened, once or twice, right? You think you know somebody and they say something, you're like, what? Oh my goodness. So in Rick by Alex Gino, Rick is feeling out of sync with his best friend, Jeff. And sometimes he even feels out of sync with his dad. And he doesn't find himself attracted to boys or to girls, but he doesn't yet have the words to describe how he feels. And although everyone around him seems to be crushing on someone, he doesn't feel that way. And while he can talk to his family, especially his grandfather, which I'm noticing now is a theme for a couple of my books, the grandfather is someone they're very close to. But I like this conversation in particular that they had. So Rick's grandfather says, think carefully about who you spend time with. The right people? Well, they can bring you great joy. And the wrong people bring sadness? Asked Rick. Grandpa Ray shook his head. Not even. Sometimes the right people bring sadness too. The wrong people are the ones who keep you from being yourself. I think those are pretty wise words, right? But Rick isn't sure who he is or who he should hang out with. And ultimately, he finds the Rainbow Spectrum Club at school, which sounds pretty cool. And it offers a safe space for open discussion for kids of many genders and identities. And Rick begins to figure some things out. The next title I'd like to tell you about, I thought this book was beautiful, and it was suspenseful and joyful and sometimes heartbreaking. This is The Hurricane Child by Kacen Callender, and it's about Caroline Murphy, who was born during a hurricane on Water Island in the Virgin Islands. Now, without giving it away, her family is a mess. And not to mention the situation at school, and there seems to be a spirit that keeps appearing to her, following her around almost. Caroline desperately needs a friend and a confidant. And at last, she finds a friend in Callender, the new girl at school. And things start to change. Now she has someone to talk to, tell her secrets to, take walks with, and they have a couple of adventures. With this new friendship, Caroline begins to fall in love with Callender. And let me just say, there is a letter written in a journal, and it was just lovely. It was the best. And I'm wondering now, speaking of journals, if you had a journal or a notebook ever in your life that included your most secret thoughts and feelings, can you imagine what it would be like if it were to disappear?
Yes, this happened to me.
Oh no.
Melissa,
Oh,
I
no.
thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was in high school. Luckily, I found it before any harm was done, but that 30 minutes is seared in my brain. It was the worst.
That's awful. I can't even imagine.
It was so bad.
Exposed you would feel. Well, in Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World by Ashley Herring Blake, one of the first things that happens is a tornado. And given the weather lately, I bet it was super, super scary. So this tornado turns Ivy's family inside out and upside down when their house is destroyed. And then Ivy realizes that her notebook is gone. She uses her notebook to express her feelings and things that she's figuring out, but isn't ready to say out loud. Things like crushing on a girl. And then pages from her notebook start to show up inside her locker. Who could possibly be doing this? Why would they do this? This is a wonderful story about family, friendship, relationships, and coming out.
That sounds wonderful. And I hope it turns out okay because, ooh.
That's another theme that's so interesting that seems to run through these books is people writing their thoughts out and putting them down on paper. And it seems to help a lot of people.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it could be really cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, we are at the end of our list. It's a really, really good one. So you can find all of these books and so many more in the kids' room at Skokie Library. And finally, if you cannot find what you need or you don't know what you want, we are here for you. I think it's pretty obvious that Melissa and Shelley and I love talking about books, so you should come see us in person, or you can fill out a book match request and we'll put together a personalized list and email it to you. We offer a book match service for grown-ups, for kids, and for teens alike. You can find a link in our chat or on the website at skokielibrary.info. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Please come see us at the library or join us here next month for more exciting book conversation. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.